Hello and welcome back to the show. So I'm really excited about my guest for today, Miles, because Miles is not just an exciting, promising, and successful real estate agent, but he's also a content creator in the real estate space from Cape Town, South Africa, which has just been recently voted as the number one city in the world in
That is true.
2025. Very
That is
exciting.
true.
So a little bit about Miles. Miles is one of the top real estate agents in Cape Town, South Africa. He was actually voted as the Remax Platinum Club member, and he's also a member of the Remax Millionaires Club in Remax, South Africa. So Miles knows just maybe a thing or two or a little bit more about selling real estate and being a successful agent. So he's going to be sharing with us what makes his business so successful, how he's built up his real estate sales career, and sharing with you guys the best practices as an agent to be able to dominate in your market and in your industry as well. So, Miles, man, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you join us here today.
Thanks, Kobe, for having me. Appreciate it. And wow, what an introduction.
Yeah, man. Well, you've done quite a bit. So, before we just dig into everything for today, I would love for you to be able to share a little bit about your background. So, I know, you have a pretty international background in real estate, right? So, you were in a different market before moving into Cape Town, South Africa. So, I'd love for you to be able to share a little bit about kind of how you got started in real estate and really what you think was that made you so successful in
Mm.
your career.
Mm. Yeah, that's correct. So I'm half German, half South African. I was born and raised in Berlin, Germany. Um, Spent kindergarten time in Cape Town and then moved back to Germany because education is for free over there, right? In South Africa, you have to pay for your education. And with my younger sister being on the way, my parents decided, okay, let's move back to Berlin. So long story short, did all my education over there and eventually went to university. And the university in Hamburg, I rented a place. And well, I didn't really study. I partied more than studied. So after the first semester, the first 6 months, I said, this might not be it. However, the lease that I was in was still running. So I had to sublet my apartment and I obviously subletted it for 50 euros extra. And then afterwards, I thought, wait, it's that easy to make money? And that sparked my interest for real estate. And then I went all in basically. I applied to all open positions there were at that time, not for a real estate agent, but for real estate management, which is the highest paid vocation job or apprenticeship that you could find in Germany, the highest qualification. Without having a university degree. And I applied at, I believe it was 47 different real estate management companies. Eventually got invited to work for free for three different ones. And yeah, went to have a test day at a few of them and eventually made my choice. It was a 25 to 30 people strong, family run management company. And that's basically yeah, how my journey started.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting, right? You started in management in real estate
Yeah.
and then moved into sales. So what was the difference like? And did you think there was a lot of, I guess, crossover between the two when it comes to real estate? I guess, it's called property management in some areas of the world, but what you did in management versus kind of what you're doing now in real estate sales.
Well, I think us as real estate agents, and also generally when you speak about real estate, everybody thinks about the product, right? In my opinion, it's not about the product; it's more people's business, and that's where I believe my advantage comes in. Is that I got to understand at an early age from the management aspect of things how emotionally attached people are to their properties, right? Which makes me understand, okay. A considerably small amount for people that have money is some people react to it emotionally different than other people do, and also to understand, okay, properties like this attract a certain type of clientele, whereas properties like this attract a different type of clientele. So that was very, very valuable. And from that family owned company, I actually moved to one of the biggest insurance companies, and I worked in asset management for another 3 years plus minus. So in total, I had 5.5 years of real estate experience, maybe five, in Germany. And in a family run business, meaning a small one, everything very friendly, and then the corporate structure, when I worked in the asset management section in the other company. And that allowed me now here in Cape Town to implement the workflows to scale a business, right? That I learned in corporate and harmonize that with that, well, human approach that you have in a family run business, which is the company I'm working for. So our office is very, well, it's all about team at the end of the day. Our network works really well. And unlike you guys in America, one of the things I respect so much about what you guys are doing over there is you have all the data points. You can download leads. We are only slowly getting to that stage where we can go online, purchase leads, but we don't have a dialer like you guys have. So we cannot just copy paste, put it somewhere and run down 300 calls per day. So it is a slightly different approach to get to the listings. That's why the network over here, in my opinion, is even more important.
Yeah, so you mentioned, being a real estate is being a people business, right? Rather than
Yeah,
being more product focused. So that's, I think, the big distinction between very successful real estate agents, especially that I've seen kind of internationally outside of the US, rather than those who are just kind of, scraping by, right? So talk about, kind of what you did in maybe like your first couple of years as an agent to really set yourself apart, because like you mentioned, there's certain things that you can't do right in
mm,
South Africa that maybe some agents here in the US who might be listening to this or watching this that they're familiar with, right? A lot of agents here, they get started, they download leads and then they start just dialing them right away, right? That's not, you mentioned that's not something that you guys can do there. So what is it that you did in the beginning to really start generating clients, getting into listings and then actually closing those deals?
well, I learned through failure, really. I started at one of the state agencies that are very, very well known in Europe because of my background, right? And turns out that the main license, the main franchise license that was distributed on the national level was given to a person who is, at least from the knowledge I have, not 100% involved in real estate or wasn't before that. So you could see that, in that pyramid franchise holder up here, the lower you go, well, there was very little structure in there. So I was at a great agency, I believe, but there was no structure. And especially when you start, well, what do you need? You need structure and you need top agents to look up to learn from. So I lasted there for 3 to 4 months. Due to my German background and the real estate knowledge there, or the experience that I had, I quickly understood, okay, that's not the place to be. And then I applied for at 3 other agencies, and 2 said, okay, let's start. And I chose Remax at the end of the day. And just the structure that we have, I cannot speak to the American market, of course, but at least here on the level, we are bigger than the second and the third agency that we have here nationally together. We have an agent network of around 3,500 people in the country. And due to the commission split model that we have and the independent contract opportunities, all the top agents in the country work with Remax, which allows me to tap into that network and really learn from the people that, well, in a South African context, are making a load of money. So it took me lots of learning, and I needed to humble myself extremely because I came in, with the fresh mindset of, oh, these OGs, they don't know what they're doing. This is how you approach it. And then you fail and you fail and you fail and you fail. And eventually you start to either drop out like 80% of agents do within the first year, right? We have that 80-20 principle. I think it applies on your side too. 80% of real estate agents don't make it longer than the first year. And I believe it's 87.5% don't make it longer than 3 years. So that's, I believe, where that do or die mentality comes in. You either quit and this industry is not for you, and fair enough, because it is very stressful, or you say, look, what can I do better? And then you just have to speak to the right people, gather as much knowledge as you can, and implement it and see what works for you.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that when you first started, right, there was a lot of kind of failing forward, that
Yeah,
you were looking to do things kind of your own way, but then you realized that there was agents that came before you who were doing things correctly, who were very successful, that you can look up to, and then listening to kind of what they did, and then almost like duplicating or replicating their success, right? Their success.
100%. 100%. So what I did in the beginning, because I really love the time that we're living in, where you can gather all the knowledge basically online, right? I mean, just the conversation we're having here. I mean, you're in America, I'm in Cape Town. Crazy times that we live in, right? But there's very little knowledge for the South African market. So you have your Brian Buffini's and I don't know, all the coaches that you have over there who basically give you the blueprint and the scripts. I tried the American scripts. They work here, but not as good as the ones where you use our local slang and the local approach. Because even though we might have the same clothes and drive the same cars, after all, the what's the word I'm looking for? The culture is different. So for me, coming from overseas, I had to learn a lot about the culture too. And even though I'm half South African, having spent most of my life in Germany, that took me the most. Actually, really take a step back, unlearn everything you believed you learned, because I was not in the circles that made the amount of money that I'm now, right? So you know the saying, you become the product of the people you spend the most time with. I had to unlearn everything that I knew, come right into it, and form that new network. And now I'm surrounded by great people, and now I'm having great success.
Yeah, so it's it's funny because you came over, right? And then you came from a different culture, right? You came from Germany and then you came into South Africa and you have to, almost adapt and learn and unlearn and relearn everything. So I think that's very, speaks a lot to your success because there's so many agents who, here in the States, they maybe move to a different market or move from a different state and then they can't get started. They feel like they don't have a network of people to get plugged in. So when you first got started, how were you building your network of potential clients? Were you just kind of going out there, making networking connections? If there was
Yeah.
a new agent who came up to you today that said, "Hey, I'm new to this market, just got signed up to a real estate agency here in Cape Town. What do I need to do in order to start getting clients and actually start making money in this business?"
First of all, become knowledgeable. That's how you separate yourself from the pack, right? Everybody can tell you the interest rate went up, the interest rates went up. Nobody can tell you how many listings do you have in the specific suburb that you're working in, how many houses are actively for sale, and compare that to how it was a year ago to actually understand the market trend. And how do you get that knowledge? Well, you take the time, right? You walk the streets, you understand, okay, this is the house that sold 3 months ago for price X. It seemed rather expensive to me. Why? Do you then actually take the time to drive past that house to understand, oh, well, it's just 2 minutes away from this lovely lake, or it's more wind protected in that specific area of town, therefore the price is higher. Whatever it may be, it's take the time to truly understand the market that you're working in, and everything else will basically naturally happen because people seek you as a source of information. And back to the people's business, the people start to trust you the moment you understand the market. But that takes work.
Yeah, so understanding the market, studying what it is that you are, providing a service to, right? So I think that's something that's so important, regardless of what market that you're in. Understanding how you can best serve your clients is, I think, the most important foundational step for a real
Correct.
estate agent
Yeah.
to do that as well. So as far as getting in front of clients, right? So I don't know if this is the same case for you guys when you got started as well, but a lot of new agents tend to struggle when it comes to actually finding new clients, actually being able to generate leads.
Yeah.
So for you, what did you find was the most successful way for you to generate leads back when you were first getting started, but also kind of what has that evolved into for you now?
Well, that's precisely why I said understand the market first, because the moment you understand the market, what happens to you as an agent? You become confident. You know what you are talking about. And that makes it easier for you to approach your clients, wherever that may be. May it be on while you cold call, may it be while you're door knocking, which I believe is a completely underappreciated approach to finding clients, because it's super uncomfortable knocking a stranger's door, but you are immediately there and you bridge that gap of rejection to some extent, because nobody can hang the phone up into your face. Yes, they can close the door, but people are also, sellers are also just people, right? They don't want to be disrespectful or rude. And if you stand there and you are knowledgeable and you actually have value to provide, they will speak to you. If you can provide knowledge, they will speak to you. If you don't know your market and you just knock the door and say, hi, do you maybe want to sell your home? I don't know. I wouldn't choose that agent either. But I choose the agent that knocks the door confidently and says, look, I don't want to push you into selling, but I just want you to know that I understand what it's about. These are my recent sales. Should you ever consider? So not the pushy approach that uh, that we still learn, but the more laid back approach. Just be around, hover around the people, and how do you approach them exactly? Cold calling, door knocking, and of course social media.
Yeah. So that's a big one, right? So you mentioned, door knocking is something that is so proven, right, and tried and true in the real estate industry. And this is something that is across the board, right? This is not just like a local specific or a market specific
Yeah,
strategy. Agents here in the US do it. They still do it. They're still getting trained on how to do it. And it's the same way for you guys in Cape Town and South Africa as well. And I'm sure in different markets around the world. So what do you think is stopping agents from doing that? Because I'm sure there's people who are coming into the industry as a real estate agent. They know door knocking works, but they're just not doing it. Do you think it all goes back to just not knowing the product, not knowing what it is they're trying to service as far as not understanding the market, so they don't have the confidence to go out there and knock on doors? Or do you think there's something else in there that's stopping people from just putting in
yeah.
effort?
Well, I think confidence is a big one. I mean, it took me a few years now to really be confident enough and truly understand what I'm talking about, also from a legal aspect of how do the transaction work in here and there. And the other one is really a big misconception about what it means to be a real estate agent, right? You see the Netflix documentaries and everything is just, well, you go for drinks, you have parties, and you close a deal on the side. That's not what it is truly, except you are blessed enough to be born into a specific network. Of course, you do have the few individuals where it works like that, but for the common gentleman or lady who wants to become a real estate agent to level up their family tree and make generational wealth, that's not how it works. It is a job with lots of rejection, that will make you question what you are actually in the business for, because money only keeps you motivated to, well, until you got the money, basically, right? Um, that's what happened to me. I had a very decent first year at the current agency that I'm at, and well, I got comfortable. Hey, I went out for nice dinners. I took my lady out and here and there, and well, I stopped canvassing. I stopped taking care of what actually generated the business in the first place. And then you get trapped in the ups and downs. And that's what actually imposes the stress on your system, which then affects the rest of your life. So the main goal is to get stability and to fully comprehend what it means to be a real estate agent. And the biggest part of the business is lead generation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's what I think a lot of agents struggle with is when they get to a certain point, and usually this is within like their first couple years, right? When they first start being successful. And I'm so glad that, you shared kind of your experience as well because so many agents get to that point where they've made a certain amount of money and they feel very successful, and then that's exactly what they do is they stop, right? They stop doing the activities that
Mm.
are generating them the business that got them to that place in the first place, right? So they stop doing that, and then they feel like a huge dip, and then they have to basically rework it all from the top because as we all know in real estate and in sales, right? It's a cycle, right? It's a
Yeah.
timeline between your first contact versus closing. It doesn't happen instantaneously.
Yeah. And momentum is a real thing. It
Yeah,
is a real thing. The moment you can tell your suburb, I just sold the last 7 properties, that's the momentum you have to build up on. So you have to understand that you cannot relax the moment it gets good. That's the moment you have to double down. But I'm sure, did you have a story like that in your career too? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I think every agent does, right? When you first get to a certain point, that's when you start feeling comfortable, and then you feel that you don't have to do these things anymore. You just kind of enjoy the rewards, and then that's when you feel the pressure come down, right? That's when you were talking about earlier. That's when you start feeling the anxiety and the stress in your system. So you have to maintain consistency. And as a new agent who is just kind of getting started, who maybe is on that trajectory on that path, right? What is your best advice to them to actually maintain their consistency and to, maybe put out a daily schedule for themselves so that way they can always have at least maybe one or two or, certain amount of hours during the day where they
Mm.
are doing the real estate lead generation activities that
Yeah.
is going to get them their business in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Create your non-negotiables. One being lead generation. And what I just learned recently from the most successful agent we have in our Remax network here, a gentleman I really look up to a lot. His name is Sean Phillips. I wouldn't say own, but he has the biggest market share, to my knowledge at least, of one of our most prestigious suburbs here, which is Camps Bay. And the message is basically you have to speak to 10 people per day minimum. So that doesn't mean 10 calls, it means speak to 10 people. If it takes you 50 calls to speak to 10 people, that's what it is. If you have a 100% pickup ratio and you speak to 10 people, perfect. You had a good day. But either way, it's that speak to 10 people. And that over time just accumulates into business. That's the non negotiable. Understand that. That's my first message. That's the one that I, after a total of 9 years in real estate now, on 2 continents, am still struggling with, is the consistency with the lead generation and doing those calls. I've done it for some time and I had the best few months. I sold, yes, that was a very good week that I had there. I saw multiple properties, basically made almost half the annual commission I made in that year within just a few weeks. But I was pumping those calls, and I also sent out a lot of WhatsApp messages. So that worked for me.
Yeah. See, that's just kind of the seeing the work put in and the results happening, right? So a lot of
Yeah,
agents.
but it's like, you work out one day, you wake up in the morning, you have your coffee, you work out, and you have a very productive, good day, and you fall asleep, and you feel that, man, I was successful. I'm laying my head to rest peacefully. I had a very good day, but then you wake up the next day and you don't do it again. Why? Why don't we do that? It's like we humans are wired that way, and it's really just overcoming yourself, like in many aspects of life.
Yeah, I think that's where where you said momentum is a real thing. I think that's where
Yeah,
momentum comes in and it becomes so important because if you the hardest part for us to really master is to start and stop, right? It's harder to start from a dead
mm,
stop than it is to carry momentum forward, right? Like if you were on a roll, right? If you were doing your prospecting activities for 10 days in a row, the 11th day is going to feel easier than when you were starting from
100%.
nothing the first day.
100%. And you know what they say, it takes 30 days to form a habit. So if you just can stick out those 30 days, it will feel like it's part of your life.
Yep, exactly. That's where I think that's where a lot of agents struggle with is developing the habit, right?
Yeah.
Developing the habit of being in prospecting activities, being in new business, new lead generation activities every single day. So,
Yeah.
kind of want to shift gears a little bit here. I know you are pretty good on content creation. You've got your, if you guys are watching this on video, you've got your content studio set up. So you mentioned social media was one of the big three ways to generate leads and generate new business. So, what have you done on social media, and what is your advice to agents who are maybe thinking about leveraging social media in their market to start generating leads?
Yeah. So I would say it gave me business indirectly, not directly. So it's not like sellers hit me up on Instagram and say, hey, please sell my home. I saw your super funny Instagram video or your motivational quote or whatever it was. But what the Instagram or the social media allowed me to do on the local market here or in the local market is create a network with other agents, right? Because coming from overseas, or having lived overseas, the benefit that I have is I'm not bound by the social construct of this city. I can make my own rules. If it's like if you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you have to remove certain family members if you want to elevate. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck and you're going to be pulled down by their negativity, and they will always measure you on who you were 10 years ago. And coming from outside the bubble allowed me to really, and I had other agents tell me that directly to my face, motivate them to get their social media going and be more courageous because the biggest market, the main market share here is really in the hands of the OG agents, but they don't do a lot of social media. So we do see a little bit of a shift in times here. probably you guys on your side too. And it's a great opportunity to position yourself well at the moment. So, and that's how I basically generated the business, right? It was then from other agents building trust through seeing my Instagram saying, look, I think I can trust him if I share my client's details. Miles, can you bring my client through property XYZ? We close a sale, share 50-50, everybody wins. Which is, by the way, the Remax Mantra 2. Everybody wins.
That's awesome. So I think, it's you have a very, forward-thinking mindset when it comes to, real estate and growing your business because there's, we see it here in the US where, and also in Canada, where there's a lot of agents on social media, right? There's a ton of agents leveraging whether if it's Instagram, YouTube, those are really I think the two big ones, and also now TikTok, to generate
Big
business.
one. Huge, huge, massive.
Yeah, so that one's really blown up. We did have a kind of a scare, or more or less, here in the U.S. a couple weeks ago on TikTok, but I think it's kind of stabilized now. It's kind of back on, but
Just quickly, because I'm interested, is it completely banned or?
no, it's not completely banned. It's actually back now. So TikTok is
Oh,
pretty much, if you still have TikTok, you can still use it. There's phones where if you haven't downloaded TikTok yet, you may or may not be able to download TikTok on your phone if you've never had it before. So I think that's the problem a lot of people are struggling with. But it was down. It was completely down for about 2-3 days. And then now it's just back up, and people are still leveraging TikTok for their business. So it seems like it's going to be something that will be worked out, and will continue to be part of the social media space moving forward.
but the interesting takeaway from that for me is you need to have your own database, right? You cannot rely on Instagram, TikTok, or even Gmail, matter of fact, to keep all your contact details. Have your own backup files, get your data.
Yeah, that's actually so important. I'm so glad you said that because that's what everybody here in the US is teaching as well when it comes to not just real estate, but like in business, because you never know if one of your accounts is going to get shut down, right? You can't be dependent on one platform that you have no control over. You have to maintain your own database, right? So, being able to capture leads, being able to capture them into your own database, is so extremely important. But just kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, when you're doing social media, right? Do you see that it's a way for you to really stand out in your market? Because like you mentioned, there's other markets around the world. A lot of the kind of top agents, they're not doing social media. They're doing traditional marketing. They just kind of own the market share in their specific location. Do you see this being something where, if you as an agent focus on it, can potentially take over existing agents' market shares just by being out there, putting yourself out there, because you would be essentially one of the first people to use social media for real estate.
Let me put it this way. The most successful real estate agents that we have down here, they don't take care of social media in any kind of way, really. They don't. Um, Cape Town is very, very clicky, is the word that we use in Cape Town specifically. And really, it's your network that will determine your net worth. However, we are seeing a shift slowly. Now, the trade off that you have to make if you are already a successful agent is, well, you leave actual tangible business on the road that you cannot attend to if you fully focus on content creation. So that's basically the most difficult part about it because I mean, the real content creators, it's a full-time job. You can't just wing it on the side, in my opinion. Or maybe I haven't grown enough yet to balance both. But at the moment, that's what I'm struggling with the most because there's money on the streets right there. It's difficult to not grab the opportunities and focus on, creating content, which I'm not speaking to my target audience too, right? I'm speaking to other agents. I'm, speaking to buyers. What I'm after really is the sellers, and the sellers, you get them by door knocking and calling them directly.
Yep, exactly. And then you mentioned, your target market is the sellers, right? So, that's more or less kind of what was being taught here in the US as well, as far as make sure you get your listings because that way you can actually own the market, right? People who are putting their houses on the market, that is the inventory. Do you think that's the best way to approach when it comes to generating new business in your market as well?
Yeah.
Is it going after sellers and the comparison between working with buyers only versus working exclusively or the majority of your business working with sellers?
Well, I hope none of my buyers listens to this, but you know the saying, buyers are liars. And that's unfortunately what 8 out of 10 times happens, no matter how good you service them, right?
Mhm.
You will find that in specific market conditions, not every listing agent wants to share on their listing, and then you are not able to bring your buyer through, even though you worked with them for a year and you showed them 50 houses. So now you have wasted time, money on petrol, and whatnot on that client. And last minute they decide that's the property they want. You can bring them in. You worked for free, you wasted money. However, if you are in charge of the stock, you attract the buyers automatically, and you get to set the terms. I actually am only learning that now myself. Up until a year ago, I thought, the traditional 50-50, 50% sellers, 50% buyers, and, see what works is the way to go. But I'm still learning, I'm still evolving, and I'm fully committed to what I just explained now. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's the case for the majority of markets around the world, right? Because the same problems we have working with buyers in the U.S. and in Canada, same problem other agents are experiencing working with buyers in different countries around the world too. So just kind of wrap up the podcast for today. I would love for you to kind of go back and talk more about the importance of having a mentor, right? The importance of being able to learn from people that have come before you that are successful. So you're kind of in this position now where you're still learning, right? And you're still learning from other successful agents, but you have a lot, right? That's why you're on this podcast. You have a lot to offer other agents as well. So I'd love for you to, maybe share a little bit about just how big of an impact it is for somebody who is newer or somebody who is just getting started in industry to have people that they can look up to and emulate, and what that has done for you, and what are some of the things that you are helping other agents maybe in your office do the same as well?
Sorry, I'm just thinking how to best formulate that. If somebody else has made the mistakes, why should you do them again? That's basically it. If you feel like you know everything, you are probably the dumbest person on earth, because we will never stop learning. We will always have new things to learn, and especially given how fast times are changing with regards to, for example, social media, there's always development. There's always things to learn, especially in this industry. The market will always change. There will always be a different motivation to buy or sell. Of course, we have the basic ones, but in the Cape Town aspect, for example, now we have many UK buyers, US buyers a lot now after your guys' elections, right? So I, for example, I believe it's my responsibility to understand my buyers' motivation. So I'm following the American news at the moment, both CNN and Fox News, to understand, okay, what's their motivation? What's their motivation? So when I speak to my clients, I can easily connect and understand how they might feel at the moment. So you will always learn. The moment you feel like you know everything, you need to put yourself into uncomfortable situations so you get back to square one and keep on learning. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, so I mean, so you've obviously learned a lot, right, from existing agents that when you were first
Yeah,
starting out. Now you're in a position where you can, you're experienced enough to also help
yeah,
other agents and share your advice too. So
yeah.
where do you
Yeah.
think you can come in and be the most valuable to other agents who are also learning and maybe wanted to learn from a successful agent like yourself?
Well, my Instagram is always open. My DMs, it's miles.manders. And I do have quite a lot of people in the Cape Town market that are actually just starting out, and they are texting me, well, basically all day, every day. Just how do I get started? How do I pick the right agency? The basic questions that we all ask ourselves when we started, right? And I'm actually probably onboarding my first team member tomorrow. Let's see how that goes. and it's also a young gent that just wants to make some money. Our unemployment rate here in South Africa is around 47%. So every second individual is jobless. Obviously, you see pockets right in the city center. It's not as bad as in the rural areas and here and there, but overall, it's being a real estate agent in South Africa is one of the few job opportunities you have to really, really make it. So the demand is high, and yeah, just reach out if you need anything, holler at your boy.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I think you're absolutely right. So like in Cape Town, right, it was just voted, like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, the #1 city in the world,
Yeah,
right? So there's definitely a lot of demand. I think people are looking into moving there, investing there. A lot of tourists coming in, and just really quick, just to kind of wrap up here today. So you mentioned you're onboarding your first team member. There's a lot of agents who kind of struggle with the idea of, do I stay independent? Do I grow a team? Are you kind of in that space now, or are you pretty committed now to just kind of maybe growing a team under you as well in order to
yeah,
kind of market
yeah.
share?
It was always on the table for me, but I actually didn't expect it to happen this soon in my career, especially on this side of the world at least. And well, it's basically like what I said earlier about the content creation part. I'm starting it with the understanding that now I'm not in the real estate business anymore in this aspect, but well, now I'm back in the people's business. So now I'm not just selling homes, now I'm also mentoring somebody, and now I'm trying to build somebody else's career. So it's a different kind of responsibility there. And I'm trying to, just learn. ChatGPT is an absolute ace when it comes to gathering knowledge at the moment. And I'm using it every day. It helps. It really does.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad you're using that too, because I mean, there's so many people who kind of brush that aside, I would say,
Yeah.
when it comes to AI technology and just the
Yeah.
advancements there. So maybe we can bring you on in a couple months time and have you talk about your experience in AI and just the journey that you're on, right? Because you're
Sure
doing
thing.
so much.
Sure thing. I'm right here.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, Miles, for being on the show for today. And just one last time for our listeners out there, if they want to know more about you, they want to learn from you, if they want to just follow you on your journey, maybe on social media, what are some?
Or you want to buy property in Cape Town, Instagram Miles.Manders, Facebook Miles Manders, and YouTube also Miles Manders, Real Estate Cape Town, and you'll find me there.
Awesome, man. We'll make sure to leave all the links to that in the description down
Sure.
below. But before we let you go for today, man, do you have any last pieces of advice, any last tips for our audience listening here today?
Am I speaking to my agents or my clients?
Uh, Go ahead and speak to the agents. I would say that's the
Speak to
majority.
agents. If you feel like you're not made for this job, you're not made for this job.
No.
That's it. That's it. You either love it or you don't. And don't be in it for the money. I enjoy the highs of making a deal. That's what gets me going.
Awesome. Yep, that's some actually great advice, man. So I appreciate you, Miles, being on the show today. Thank you for tuning
Thanks
in,
for the invite.
and
Appreciate it.
see you in the next show.
Sweet, man. Bye bye.